The Ballad of Mulan is perhaps most famously the source of the Disney extravaganza, but it's remarkably subtle in its earlier incarnations. It is a ballad, it is a song, it is a folk, it's a folk tale going back to roughly the 4th century, somewhere between the 4th and 6th century, I think, in Chinese history, and it's a nuanced and complicated story in terms of its gender dynamics. Quite frankly, the most famous aspect of it is the girl who gets dressed as a boy so that she can go to war, and in the Disney version, it is played with some significant feminist flair, and it tells a very nice version of the story that way. In the Ballad of Mulan, it is a little bit more subtle. But it's a very effective little song. It's a very remarkably well executed song. One of the first things that grabs you is its mimetic quality. It's the drama it creates by immersing you in the experience of the song. Click, click, forever click, click. Mulan sits at the door and weaves. Listen, and you will not hear the shuttle sound, but only hear a girl sobs and sighs. Well, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty dramatic. That's pretty rhythmic and percussive, just in the translation by Arthur Valley. But also, it's immediate. It drives you in. Click, click, click. That simple, repetitive sound that draws you into the action, and you get the immediate experience of being there with this girl, and just the little details. She is sitting by the door, waiting and weaving. Weaving, of course, is historically in many cultures a sign of what women do, and here she's sitting by the door, which suggests that she's waiting for someone to come through the door. Who is she waiting for? What is she waiting for? Well, this is perhaps a classic sign of the woman who waits at home for her husband or her man to come home from war. But instead, of course, this story is going to twist that a little. And then this voice just emerges out of nowhere and asks the girl, oh, tell me, lady, are you thinking of your love? Oh, tell me, lady, are you longing for your dear? Oh, no, I'm not thinking of my love. Oh, no, I'm not longing for my dear. But last night I read the battle roll. The Khan had ordered a great levy of men. The battle roll was written in 12 books, and in each book stood my father's name. My father's sons are not grown men, and of all my brothers, none is older than me. And there she hatches this idea to go and dress as a young boy and join the ranks in her father's place. Her father is an older man, and he is perhaps too infirm to go. Her brothers are all younger than she is, and perhaps too young to go. So she sees that, well, if somebody has to come from this household, I am the only one fit to do so. Now, just a couple of things on that. Oh no, nice percussive sound again, just like the clicking of the needles for weaving or whatever. But the question can either come from a servant, which it kind of develops into, but at first you don't know, because you are in the position, as you're hearing this song or as you're reading this, you are in the position of wondering, well, what are you waiting for? So the poem involves you that way. Perhaps those quotation marks are for you and your question, and the song, the poem, anticipates that and draws you in again. It develops that, okay, this is perhaps a servant, and Mulan asks her to go and help her gather up the materials, and then the poem takes off in a kind of sweep, and you get the romance of the experience. In the Eastern market, she's bought a gallant horse. In the Western market, she's bought saddle and cloth. In the Southern market, she's bought snaffle and reins. In the Northern market, she bought a tall whip. In the morning, she stole from her father's and mother's house. At night, she was camping at the Yellow River side. She could not hear her father and mother calling her name, but only the song of the Yellow River as it hurrying waters hissed and swirled through the night. At dawn they left the river and went on their way. At dusk they came back to the black water's side. She could not hear her father and mother calling her by her name. She could only hear the muffled voices of Scythian horsemen riding on the hills of Yen. So this girl whose life was embedded in the sounds of the clicking weaving in that small room, I'm imagining it to be small, next to the door, which is all a life of anticipation, a life of anxiety. Now she's out and she's here and she's there and she's over there and she's over here and she's traveling, and time is moving suddenly very quickly, so that simple marking of percussive time of the clicking of the needles is suddenly racing by, and you have day and then dawn and then night and then day and then dawn and then night, and all of these successive leaps of time where she is swallowing up whole chunks of experience. It is inspiring, it is moving, it is sweeping in its romance, quite frankly, and you get a sense of how exciting that life is. And she goes and she fights, and she cannot hear her mother and father, and perhaps this is an issue. She cannot hear her father. She is out of the realm of her parents, living this very exciting life, and well, that's troubling. Is she supposed to be hearing her mother and father? Is the lure of that something that is good or is bad? The poem is very uncertain about this. She is serving the leader. She is serving the Khan in responding to the conscription to go and fight, but she is away from home. She is out of her parents' reach. She is perhaps being thrilled by this. But the poem makes a point that at the end of that battle, after many years go by, she's been in disguise the entire time. Nobody discovers her. She doesn't have any grand romance or anything like that. No prince or warrior comes to save her or whatever. She, at the end of that, she is offered as among other veterans, she is offered, well, what do you want from this? And she just says, I want a camel to go home. And okay, they give it to her, and she goes home. And she very pointedly takes off her her uniform, her battle dress, her armor, whatever it is, and puts on her dress. Her feminine quality is reestablished. Passage of time is noted in that her hair is now cloudy. She stood in the window and bound her cloudy hair. She has put on some gray. She is older, but she reasserts herself into her role, having served. Remember, essentially served the men of her house. She has returned home and returned to her role as a woman. She went to the mirror and fastened her yellow combs. She left the house and met her messmates in the road. Her messmates were startled out of their wits. They had marched with her for 12 years of war and never known that Mulan was a girl. For the male hare has a lilting, lolloping gait, and the female hare has a wild and roving eye. But set them both scampering side to side, and who is so wise could tell you, this is he. She runs into her old colleagues, and they are astounded. And okay, that's a big reveal. It's curious that that moment is just narrated secondhand and diegetically and not mimetically, like that immediate immersion at the beginning. But what is really striking here is that animal imagery. Now, yes, it gives a suggestion of the gender indiscrimination. Like, what's the difference? Well, the difference is implied perhaps in the fact that the animals, the hares in question, the rabbits, can tell male from female themselves. It's the outside observer that can't really tell the difference, which reflects back on the experience that she had, the experience of being a soldier, the intense, personal, identifiable experience of being a soldier. And that is different than sitting on the outside and observing from a distance. The objectivity, that remove gives you a different perspective or perhaps a lack of perspective. It's a troubling message of femininity, I would say. The experience of Mulan is not necessarily the "you go girl" story that Disney would have you believe. It is a story of a girl who returns home more than anything, who goes out and has this adventure, but she returns home and reestablishes herself in her role. She doesn't necessarily change from this experience. At least not that we're told. It's a romantic little episode in her life. It is an inspiring episode, that one that we get swept up in. But at the end, there is that cool remove of the objectivity, where we are sort of pushed back out of the story to observe it from afar, told more than shown what the drama is. And in that, are we supposed to reflect on our own and suppose what's going on in her mind, what her sensations are, what her curiosities are, what her questions might be? Or are we just supposed to observe and say, okay, that's over, everything back to normal?